The kitchen was too quiet and too expensive. Caspian Vance stood by the marble counter. He was wearing a robe that cost more than a car, but he looked miserable. He held up a piece of black burnt bread. "It's burnt again, Juno! This toaster cost $5,000 and it can't even make a piece of toast," Caspian yelled. Juno Merrick didn't even look up from her tablet. "It's a smart toaster, Caspian. Maybe it's just smarter than you. It knows you're bitter, so it makes bitter bread." Caspian slammed the toast on the counter. Clack. It sounded like a rock. "I run a giant company. I manage thousands of people. I should be able to eat breakfast without a software update." Juno stood up. Her chair made a loud scratching noise. "You're not mad about the toast. You're mad because you hate our life. You want a divorce? Fine, I've already got the papers in my bag." Caspian froze. Then he nodded. "Good, let's do it. I'm tired of being a billionaire. I'm tired of being married to a computer." "Great," Juno snapped. "Let's go see the lawyers." They walked into the library. Their lawyer, a boring man named Miller, was waiting for them. "We want a 50-50 split," Caspian said. "She takes half the money, I take half." "We never see each other again." Miller sighed. He held up a gold-bordered contract. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. Do you remember the legacy clause you signed 10 years ago?" Juno frowned. "What about it?" "The contract says that if you divorce, the at-fault person, the bad spouse, must take everything," Miller explained. Caspian blinked. "What do you mean, everything?" "The person who caused the divorce has to keep the $100 billion, Miller said. "They have to keep the company, the 40,000 employees, the boring meetings, and the 24-hour security. You can't sell the company for 20 years. You are stuck being a billionaire." Juno leaned forward. "And the other person?" "The innocent one?" "The innocent person gets a small prize," Miller said. "They get $50,000 a year for life. They lose the mansions and the jets, but they get to be free. No more paparazzi. No more meetings. Just a quiet, simple life." Caspian and Juno looked at each other. Most people would fight for the billions. But Caspian and Juno were exhausted. They both wanted the $50,000 and the freedom. "I'm the bad one," Caspian shouted suddenly. "I yelled about the toast. I'm a mean husband. Give Juno the $100 billion. I want the $50K and a cabin in the woods." "No way," Juno screamed, standing up. "I'm the one who forgets our anniversary every year. I'm cold and heartless. I'm clearly at fault. Give Caspian the money and let me go live in a small apartment." Miller looked confused. "Usually, people fight to be the winner. You two are fighting to be the loser." "The court will decide in 90 days, Miller said. "Whoever proves they are, the worst spouse will be forced to keep the $100 billion. Caspian looked at Juno. A competitive fire lit up in his eyes. "You think you can be worse than me, Juno?" Caspian challenged. "I'm going to be so annoying that the judge will beg me to leave." "It's on, Caspian," Juno said with a smirk. "I'm going to be the biggest disaster this city has ever seen. Enjoy your billions because I'm going to be free." Caspian pulled out his phone. He didn't call his bank. He called a messy fast food place and ordered 100 burgers to be delivered to their fancy mansion just to ruin the carpet. The war to be the loser had started. The annual Vance Merrick Charity Gala was the biggest night of the year. Usually, Caspian and Juno spent weeks preparing. They wore perfectly tailored suits and practiced their power couple, smiles in the mirror. But tonight was different. Tonight was the first official battle to see who was the worst spouse. "Are you ready to lose, Juno?" Caspian asked. He was standing in the foyer of their mansion. He wasn't wearing his usual tuxedo. Instead, he had found an old, neon green tracksuit from college. It was stained and 2 sizes too small. Juno walked down the stairs. Caspian's jaw dropped. She wasn't wearing a gown. She was wearing a bathrobe and fluffy slippers. She was holding a bag of greasy potato chips and had a smudge of chocolate on her cheek. "Nice suit, Caspian," Juno chewed loudly. "You look like a highlighter. But I'm going to go to this party, sit in the front row, and fall asleep during the mayor's speech. The press will say I'm a lazy, disrespectful wife. I'll be at my cottage by Monday." Caspian smirked. "Falling asleep? That's amateur. I'm going to walk in with a bucket of fried chicken and eat it." during the silent auction. "May the worst person win," Juno said, wiping her salty hands on her expensive bathrobe. When their black limousine pulled up to the red carpet, the photographers went wild. They expected glamour. They expected perfection. Instead, the door opened and Caspian stepped out. He was wearing his neon tracksuit and flip-flops. He tripped on purpose, spilling a giant soda all over the red carpet. "Oops!" Caspian yelled at the cameras. "I'm just a clumsy, messy husband. Juno hates when I do this. Write that down." The photographers looked confused. They started snapping pictures. Then Juno stepped out. She looked like she had just woken up from a nap. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just walked past the reporters and started loudly scrolling through TikTok videos on her phone with the volume turned all the way up. "Mrs. Merrick," a reporter shouted, "why are you wearing a bathrobe to a 10,000 a ticket event?" "Because my husband is too cheap to buy me a dress." Juno lied through a mouthful of chips. She pointed at Caspian. "He spent all our money on this ugly tracksuit. He's a terrible provider, truly at fault." Caspian gasped. "I am not. I offered to buy her a dress, but she's so lazy she refused to get out of bed. She's the incompetent one." They started arguing right there on the red carpet. They weren't whispering. They were screaming about who forgot to take the trash out in 2022. The reporters were stunned. "Is this a performance?" one whispered. "No," another replied. "I think they've finally lost it." Inside the ballroom, the richest people in the city were staring. Caspian and Juno sat at the head table. Caspian pulled out a bucket of extra greasy fried chicken. He didn't use a napkin. He licked his fingers and then reached over to shake hands with a billionaire investor. "Good to see you, Bill," Caspian said, leaving a grease stain on the man's $5,000 suit. "Juno told me not to bring the chicken, but I don't listen to her. I'm a very disobedient husband. Make sure the lawyers know that." Meanwhile, Juno was doing her best to be a bad partner. When the charity started the auction for a new children's hospital, Juno raised her hand. "I bid $1, she shouted. The room went silent. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "Mrs. Merrick, the starting bid is $1 million. "Fine," Juno rolled her eyes. $1 and a half-eaten bag of chips. "My husband says I'm not allowed to spend the big money because I'm too irresponsible. Isn't that right, Caspian?" "Actually," Caspian jumped in, trying to steal the bad guy spotlight, "I want to bid $10 million. Of Juno's personal savings. Without asking her." He looked at the lawyers sitting in the back of the room. He gave them a thumbs up. "See? I'm stealing her money. I'm a thief. I'm at fault." By the end of the night, Caspian and Juno were exhausted. They had insulted each other, ruined a red carpet, and embarrassed every friend they had. They were sure the at-fault verdict was coming. But then Sterling, the lawyer, walked over to their table. He was smiling. "What are you smiling at?" Juno asked, leaning back in her bathrobe. "I was a nightmare tonight. I'm clearly the bad spouse." "Actually," Sterling said, showing them a tablet. "Look at the news." The headlines were scrolling by. "Vance and Merrick, the most relatable billionaires ever." Caspian Vance breaks fashion norms with trashy chick tracksuit. Juno Merrick promotes mental health by wearing a bathrobe to public. Event, she's just like us. The couple's public fight proves they are real and raw. Stocks rise 5%. Caspian's jaw dropped. "What? They liked it?" "The public loves you," Sterling laughed. "They think you're being authentic. The board of directors is thrilled. They think this rebellion is a brilliant marketing move. You're more popular and richer than you were this morning." Juno put her head in her hands. "I just wanted to be a loser. Why is it so hard to lose $100 billion? Caspian looked at his greasy chicken bucket. "We have to go bigger, Juno. Being messy didn't work. We need something illegal, or at least something truly unforgivable." Juno looked at him. A new dangerous plan was forming. "Caspian, do you still have that contact for the guy who sells fake haunted houses? I think it's time we lose all our money on a really, really bad investment." "I like the way you think," Caspian said. "But I'm still going to be the one who gets blamed for it." Caspian and Juno sat in their office the next morning. They were annoyed. Being messy had made them more famous. Being rude had made them more popular. "We need a real disaster," Juno said. She was finally out of her bathrobe, but she was wearing her shirt backward just to see if anyone noticed. No one did. They thought it was a new trend. "I have an idea," Caspian said. "The contract says if we are incompetent or lose the company money, we are at fault. So, let's buy something that is guaranteed to fail." "Like what?" Juno asked. "A desert," Caspian grinned. "I found a guy selling 10,000 acres of dust in the middle of nowhere. No water, no plants. Just rocks and heat. We will spend $50 billion to build a luxury ice skating resort there. It will melt in an hour. We will lose all the money. The board will fire us and we will be free." Juno's eyes lit up. "That's perfect. It's the stupidest idea in history. People will hate us for wasting money. The judge will definitely call us incompetent." They called a huge press conference. Every major news station was there. Caspian stood at the podium looking very proud of himself. "Ladies and gentlemen," Caspian announced, "Vance Merrick is moving in a new direction. We are spending half of our fortune to build Caspian's ice kingdom in the hottest part of the Sahara Desert. It will have no roof, just ice in the sun." The room went silent. A reporter stood up. "Sir, won't the ice melt in 5 minutes?" "Yes," Caspian shouted happily. "It's a terrible plan. I'm a terrible businessman. Juno told me not to do it. But I'm forcing her to use her tech company to build the cooling system, which she already told me won't work." Juno stepped up to the microphone. "That's right. I'm building a cooling system made of cardboard and old fans. I'm a failure of an architect. Don't trust me with your money." They walked off the stage, high-fiving. They were sure this was the end. They went home, packed their small bags, and waited for the bankruptcy phone call. 3 weeks later, Caspian was sitting on the floor of his mansion, eating cereal out of a box. He was waiting for the police or the lawyers to come take his keys. Suddenly, his phone started screaming with notifications. "Juno, get in here!" Caspian yelled. Juno ran in. "Is it over? Are we poor yet? Look at the news!" Caspian pointed at the TV. The headline read, "The Miracle in the Desert. How Vance and Merrick Saved the Planet." A news reporter was standing in the desert, but she wasn't standing on ice. She was standing next to a giant, glowing green forest. "It turns out," the reporter said, "that Juno Merrick's cardboard cooling system accidentally created a new way to pull water out of thin air, and Caspian Vance's stupid idea to pour billions into the sand uncovered the largest underground freshwater lake in human history." The reporter looked amazed. "By trying to build an ice rink, they have turned the desert into a paradise. The land is now worth trillions. Caspian and Juno are now the richest people on Earth." Juno dropped her bag of books. "You have got to be kidding me." "We tried to lose 50 billion, Caspian whispered, his voice trembling. "And we made 500 billion? I hate being rich." Juno screamed at the ceiling. "Why won't the money go away?" Just then the doorbell rang. It was Miller, the lawyer. He didn't look happy. He looked terrified. "Is it time for the divorce hearing?" Caspian asked hopefully. "Can I be at fault now? I'm the one who picked the desert." "The hearing is tomorrow," Miller said. "But there's a problem. The board of directors just voted. They don't want to fire you. They want to make you leaders for life. They said you are godlike geniuses." Caspian and Juno sat on the floor together. They were trapped. They were richer, more famous, and more successful than ever. "There's only one way out," Juno said, looking at Caspian. "What?" "The final hearing," Juno said. "We have to stop pretending to be bad business people. We have to be bad humans. We have to tell the judge the truth about how much we actually, well, you know." "What?" Caspian asked. "How much we've actually enjoyed spending time together lately," Juno whispered. "If we admit we've been teaming up, the judge will know we aren't really fighting. And if we aren't fighting, we can't get the divorce under the at-fault rule." Caspian realized she was right. Their plan to ruin each other had turned them into a perfect team. "Wait," Caspian said. "If we don't get the divorce, we have to keep the money together?" "Unless," Juno said, "we find a way to give it all away without being at fault." The day of the final hearing arrived. The courtroom was packed with reporters, lawyers, and curious billionaires. Everyone wanted to see who would win the $100 billion. Caspian and Juno stood before Judge Gable. The judge looked at the mountain of evidence. He saw the photos of the neon tracksuit. He saw the reports about the desert ice rink that turned into a forest. He saw the videos of them arguing over burnt toast. "I have never seen a couple more dedicated to being terrible," Judge Gable said, rubbing his temples. "Mr. Vance, you claim you are a reckless thief. Mrs. Merrick, you claim you are a cold, incompetent failure. But here is the problem." The judge leaned forward. "Every bad thing you do makes the world better. You tried to ruin a gala and you started a mental health movement. You tried to waste money in the desert and you solved world hunger. The law says the at-fault party must be a burden to the company. You two are a blessing." Caspian stepped forward. "Your Honor, please. I am a nightmare. I left the cap off the toothpaste this morning on purpose. I am clearly the one at fault." "No," Juno shouted. "I'm the one who didn't tell him there was a kick me sign on his back. I am a cruel wife. Give me the money and let him go." The judge hammered his gavel. "Silence. I've made my decision. Since you both seem so desperate to be the victim, I'm going to grant the divorce. But I am splitting the blame 50-50. That means you both stay in charge. You both keep the money. You will live in the mansion together but in separate wings, until you learn to be responsible." Caspian and Juno froze. This was the worst-case scenario. They were still billionaires, still married to the job, and still stuck with each other. Juno looked at Caspian. Caspian looked at Juno. In that moment, Caspian remembered something. He remembered how much fun he had wearing the neon tracksuit. He remembered how they laughed until they cried after the desert announcement. For the last 90 days, they hadn't been CEOs. They had been a team. "Wait," Caspian said softly. He turned to the judge. "Your Honor, we have a confession." "Another one?" The judge sighed. "We aren't actually at fault," Caspian said. He looked at Juno and took her hand. "The truth is, I've been helping her, and she's been helping me. We haven't been fighting. We've been playing a game because we were both just tired." Juno nodded, her eyes soft. "We thought the money was the problem. We thought we needed to be poor to be happy. But the truth is, the only time we were happy in the last 10 years was these last 3 months, when we were together, trying to lose it all." The courtroom was silent. This wasn't the divorce drama everyone expected. "If you aren't at fault," the judge said, "then the legacy clause is void. You can do whatever you want with the money, but if you quit, the company might collapse." Juno smiled. It was the first real smile Caspian had seen in years. "We aren't going to quit. We're going to change the rules." They turned to the lawyers. "We are donating 99% of the fortune to a global trust," Juno announced. "The employees will own the company now. We're keeping the $50,000 a year stipend for ourselves, and we're keeping the cabin in the woods." "And the divorce?" the lawyer asked. Caspian looked at Juno. "I think we'll cancel the divorce. But I'm still keeping the neon tracksuit." Juno laughed. "And I'm keeping the bathrobe." A year later, in a small town far away from the city, a man was carving a piece of wood on a porch. A woman was inside a small shop, organizing books on a shelf. There were no paparazzi, no board meetings, no 24-hour security. The man walked into the shop carrying 2 slices of toast. They were perfectly medium brown. No smart toaster required. "Is it finally quiet enough for you?" Caspian asked, handing a slice to Juno. Juno took a bite and smiled. "It's perfect, although I did see a very expensive, very smart lawnmower in the window of the hardware store today. It looks like it would be a disaster to put together." Caspian grinned. "Don't even think about it, Juno. We're retired." "I know," she said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "But it would be a lot of fun to watch you try to build it." They didn't have $100 billion anymore. They had something much harder to find: a quiet morning, a good laugh, and a piece of toast that wasn't burnt. In the end, Caspian and Juno Vance learned the most expensive lesson of all: that $100 billion is a heavy weight, but freedom is weightless. They didn't win the war to be the worst spouse. Instead, they accidentally became the best team the world had ever seen. Sometimes losing everything is exactly how you find what actually matters. Thanks for watching this story of the world's most successful failures. If you enjoyed Caspian and Juno's journey from the boardroom to the bookstore, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more unique billionaire stories. What would you do if you were forced to keep $100 billion? Would you fight to lose it like Caspian and Juno? Or would you keep the keys to the empire? Let us know in the comments below.